Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob?
I mean, some of you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I decided to turn the mic over to my guest, Jamie Robinson. And man, oh man, did he bring so many deep insights and truth and raw authenticity and vulnerability. And so buckle up, because as a fellow projector and channeler, we just allowed this episode to go wherever it needed to go. And I will tell you this, I don't want you to fast forward till the end, but I need you to stick with us through the end, because that's where some real truths came out. And I'm honored that he felt safe enough to share the things that he shared in this space for all of you to hear. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Jamie. Okay, I am here with my guest, Jamie Robinson, and we met through a mutual friend.
Yep.
He's like, you got to meet this guy. So we finally connected. The stars aligned.
Yeah.
We set up.
Jameson.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jamison. Yes.
Yeah, we just we do a monthly entrepreneur meeting. It's a great experience to kind of see where we're at, not just with our careers, but in life, with family, personal life, everything, because it all coincides. It all impacts the other. So thank you, Jameson.
Yes, thank you. Because when we met on Zoom, I was like, I need to have this guy on the podcast. But what was so cool about listening to you that day and how I felt afterwards was this dude speaks butterfly language, like inner child stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, he gets it. He gets it.
Well, for me, it's been 10 years, almost 10 years of just being on a path of excavating and trying to better understand myself and letting go of aspects of, or coping strategies more than an identity, how I identify in life as I'm getting older. I'm 46 now, and I'm just learning. I'm in a process of, I get to a place of a new status quo, a new, like, okay, I feel good here. And then life presents a challenge, and it's like, okay, I got to continue to excavate. And that happens for all of us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think the difference is that I had this moment in 2016 where it just clicked, and I said, I can't keep going the way I've been going, which we can dive into.
Oh yeah, we're going there.
What that looked like. For me, it's about alignment, and I'm still a work in progress. I sometimes I regress, and I'm like, oh, I'm still doing that. I'll get into the details of that, because my commitment is honesty and vulnerability.
Amen.
So,
yeah, you are on the right podcast for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a question that you had prior to schedule this, like, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of similar, like to Eckhart Tolle, is just show up and allow life to happen and move through me. It's not about me looking good. This isn't even about me.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's not about you. It's about us co-creating an experience for whoever's watching this to be moved by it and to live in that person's most aligned state. Like I said, I'm still a work in progress with it. So I'm not over here like, hey, I'm on this side of the fence and let me tell you about it. It's like,
exactly.
It's like I'll dip a toe over, and then I'm like,
100%.
and then I'll hop back to the other side and live over there for a little bit. And I'm like, until I suffer enough.
Oh yeah. My guests are well aware, because, hey, welcome to the shit show that is my life. But here I'm moving through it, and I want to let you in while I'm in it, not while I'm on the other side and look at me now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm in it right now. And hopefully these experiences help you feel like you're not alone, and that we're all moving through it. We're all going through it.
Yeah. And when I was driving here, I was listening to Alan Watts, and I was thinking about, okay, I'm just going to show up, and just whatever's meant to be shared will be shared.
Yes.
But then even that thought, I realized was a thought. And I said, I focused on the breath, and then I focused on what I was doing. And so when you came down, I was in the practice of just watching the trees blow, because it looks like it might storm again a little bit. And I said, okay, just let everything go. Life is going to unfold the way it is exactly supposed to happen. And the problem with humans is that we get in the way of that natural unfolding based on our structures, our lines, our to-do lists, the way we think it should be, our schedules. And now to function in the world, obviously we have to have schedules.
Some of that, yeah.
You know, and because I went to the extreme early on in this journey where I was like, none of this matters. And I'm like, and then I was like, my life went to shambles, and then I was stressed with money and but having the to-do list, but realizing that if whatever is on that to-do list is meant to be, it will be. And so with all that being said, as I was driving here, Alan brought me back to the awareness that just let go.
Yeah.
Let go, and just be. And it's not about perfection. Life is about a natural unfolding, and it's perfect. And there's nothing that I have to do, have, or be to change that inherent fact. Why? Because I'm here. Here we are in physical form. It's a manifestation. I mean, first 9 months, I didn't make it happen. It's funny. Humans are funny like that. It's like your life, your existence is contingent on nature. It's like the environment allows us to breathe, and therefore we are use this little organs encased in this skull, and then we create structures based on a lot of childhood stuff, which we can get into. My childhood's very interesting in that way. So, you know, one thing you'll notice about me is I jump all over the place. So
reel me in. My tangents, like where? I always find a way to bring it back full circle.
Listen, you know what? It's not about a linear path. For me, it's about just allowing life to happen. So anyways, my point is this, is that as I was driving over here, I just said, okay, just show up.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Well, and it's funny because even putting that together was like, oh, I guess I should create some structure for people when they, want to be guests. And I should probably find out what they want to talk about, but I never care. And that's not generally the way that I schedule people. It's like, I'll send them a text like, hey, when do you want to be on the podcast? Because I want these to be unscripted. That's why it's called Tami Talks Unscripted Healing. I don't necessarily I knew a little bit about your story, but I'm like, I don't want to know all of it because I want to come on here and I want your authentic expression and the raw emotion and all of that. I want us to just see what this episode is going to be. So I loved your answer to that. I was like, sweet. Because then I feel like I've got to make sure I say this or I ask him that. And I don't function that way. I've shared that on here. Anytime I've had an outline, it completely shuts me down and I can't channel. I can't do the podcast. I'm like, nope. So there's no outline. There's no structure ever.
Yeah. Well, to your point about like getting to know me, I'm still getting to know me. And I think that's the point. Is I just had my 46th birthday. I'm now a newer father of just shy of 3-year-old.
Girl dada. I love
that
shirt.
Thank you to my wife, Melissa Simonson, who is also an amazing, a lot of the way that I talk, I got to give credit where it's due. I had to do some inner work myself before allowing the universe, God, whatever word we want to use, to bring into my orbit someone who'd be willing to be with someone like me. Because if I was the old version, she wouldn't want to be with me. And I say that because a lot of the books that I have read, we went to a Celebration Spiritual Center in Brooklyn, New York together. So the community that we were in, it was all new thought, forward thinking, Eastern philosophy, everything we're talking about right now. And as far as me giving you information about my past, 2 things. 1, I'm still figuring it out. Number 2, figuring out who I am now.
Yeah.
Right. I know I am, and we all know that stuff, but I'm saying my role in this world as I evolve. But going back, I'm still doing excavation where I don't even I have such big gaps in my memory because of trauma. And it's not a blame to my parents. It's more of an understanding and a realization that, hey, maybe some of the things that I say may not even be fully rooted in reality.
Right.
It's a story that I had to fill the gaps in with something. And I hold on to a narrative that is of suffering, of lack, of welfare, of hardship, of just lack of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not consistency, but structure and discipline. And so experiencing violence and alcohol and all this kind of stuff. And to this day, I drink. I do my best not to do it like I used to, but it's a coping strategy. So I have understanding from my parents who were very young. And I'm like, oh man, I love you both. You gave me life and you're no longer here, either one of you. But if you were here, I'd tell you, thank you. Thank you for being my parents. And I've had to do a lot of forgiveness work to get to that place. I mean, really. Yeah. So we'll see what comes out as far as my past, but it's my version of it. And I'm still learning through other people who knew my parents about my childhood.
Right. Well, and it does help to piece those puzzle pieces together, because you're right, when you have those gaps. And that was the first thing that helped me start to look into this, because I thought I had a pretty good childhood.
Yeah.
You know, I had two parents, they were still together. We grew up on a farm. And I knew that it was a struggle. They were two very young parents and they were working really hard. And I glossed over everything. And I remember thinking, like, why don't I remember much of my childhood? And I remember seeing the post of part of not remembering your childhood is a form of trauma. And I was like, whoa, wait, what? And that was the first thing that helped me validate looking into it and honoring my experience. And I was like, whoa, because I thought if I don't have these big T traumas, then I shouldn't look at my story. I shouldn't heal these wounds. I didn't know I had wounds because I never looked at it.
I think everybody does.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then from the most affluent families to the most poverty-stricken families. What you're talking about with like gaps, I'm not quite sure if it has to do, and it's probably a combination of both trauma, but on a psychological and emotional level. But I've been told by not only my mother and father, but many people on their wedding day, there was a lady who was watching me, have no clue who this is. I think it might have been a year old. And I was on the second story and I pushed the screen through and fell out of a second story window and landed on gravel. And apparently they didn't take me to the hospital. There was some slight bruising and stuff, but I'm thinking about a developing brain at that age. And I don't know how I landed, where I landed. Obviously I didn't land, but this is why scripted stuff for me is so challenging, and why when I attempted acting, it was very frustrating, is that even if I do memorize lines, let's say for acting, or I remember something, if it's scripted, when I go to regurgitate it, there's a wall. And it's like everything that I just memorized is completely gone, and it's always under stress.
Yep. Yeah.
So once the stress hormones are released, I can feel the activation in me, and then it's a block. I'm not sure if it's a combination of both the fall and the experiences in life early on, or if it's a combination of both. My assumption is that it's both physical and emotional trauma.
As you say that, it brought me back to me falling down our hay chute.
Yeah.
Like I backed up, I was Vanna White and I was showing my sister these giant hay bales that we had, and I walked backwards right down the hay chute and fell on a cement floor.
Oh my goodness.
And I always wondered too, like, did I have...
How old were you?
I think I might have been in third or fourth grade, something like that. Maybe younger. I got to ask. I've got a picture of it and it's just like this giant bandage wrapped around my head. But I even think back then, like, did I get any follow-up care after going and getting some stitches in my head? Probably not. I mean, that was just the way it was back then. Yeah. Like, oh, she's fine. She's fine. But I often wondered that. I'm like, is that why I don't have much of a memory? So I'm right there with you. Is it a combination of things?
Well, memory is just a collection of life experiences and ideologies and thoughts and just predisposed, whatever, perceptions. And it's this accumulation of clutter, and it's useful. And when I say clutter, it can really be clutter for our lives. I think it's a useful tool. And I say tool for a reason. And I didn't plan on saying any of this, but it's just dawning on me right now. It's like, it's a useful tool to help be a, I don't even want to say a guide, because sometimes that can be detrimental to decision making, but we need to use, like, for example, the past life experiences like trauma to guide us into understanding why we made those choices, why we're making our current choices, and to not continue that path. The problem is that when you have things like ideologies or any kind of belief system that keeps you contained in a certain way of life in a box, it can create division in our societies, but also just limit the beautiful unfolding of life that your life is meant to be expressed as. I just continue to just surrender. And that's a key word, is surrender into life's unfolding. Okay, here's my agenda for the day. I have clients. This is a block with my daughter. We're going to see how it goes. I would like to take her to the library today, or I want to take her to the pool today, or I want to take her wherever. And we'll see how life is moving through her, how life is moving through me, and allow it to guide. And so there's an agenda that's held loosely, saying, this is where I feel I'm being called to serve. And some of it is commitment, because consistency is important in life to progress and things, but also a surrender into the natural flow of life, which may not be the hard, rigid schedules that we make for ourselves. The problem that I have with certain people, and I'm not here to name names, you can fill in the blank if you know some of these people, but the hustle and grind culture.
Yeah.
I've lived that most of my life, and it's necessary. Sometimes we got to do things like moving here was just not fun. It was hard. It was hard on my body. It was stressful. From the East Coast, by the way, flying here with my wife and daughter, flying back, driving all our stuff here. I had to do it.
Yep.
But this culture that we live in is get up, don't sleep, get up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. I do it because I have to provide for a family, but I'm even exploring how to get out of that more and more with Jameson and others, less time for money and more creativity and allowing life to flow.
Yeah.
But the grind culture, I'm not interested in, and we can touch on this if you want about being a projector. I am a projector.
You are too?
Yeah. So like I'm meant to be called. I'm not meant to make things happen and get up and grind. And I can do that. Yes. But man, do I get wiped out and bitter and resentful and just tense and shut down. And that's actually where I'm meant to evolve. It's to soften, to allow, to be called to action and not force my own thoughts on other people unless they invite me in. Yes. Thank you to my wife, Melissa Simonson, for bringing this stuff to my attention.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny to say that because I actually had that thought earlier today with my daughter because she mentioned something on the way to school this morning that she wasn't looking forward to. I chime in. I'm like, nope, she was not ready for that. She was not asking for my input. I wanted to offer this, but as a projector, we need to be invited. And that was not the moment. And I felt shut down and kind of disrespected and not valued. When I know what I've got to say is good stuff and I know what I'm talking about, but she was not ready for it. And it's remembering those moments of like, you know what? Not yet. Just wait for that invitation.
Yeah.
I feel so validated right now as another projector over here. Like, now people understand. Like, we just don't work the way most people work.
It's our culture. It's not just in the United States. It's a lot of places in the world live in a way in which is just more and more faster grind mentality. And I'm not judging it. I'm not saying anything negative about it. I need to be clear about that. Some manifestor generators, I think they're called, are meant to be like high, boom, 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 and this is just a way of understanding life. It's not the end all be all, but once I became more aware of that and I was willing to receive that, I started to pull back a little and slow down and say yes to where I was called. I found myself less bitter, less resentful, less judgmental. It still happens, but it's less. And I think that's the goal, is to get congruent within the self and to allow life to guide and flow more with life. Another way of putting it is flow downstream instead of swimming upstream.
Yes.
And I always joke, I heard this from somebody else, that we're not salmon.
Yeah, we're not salmon.
And even if we were, we'd end up getting eaten in the end anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to use it on here more often. Like, remember,
bears
we're not
over there.
Salmon. Stop paddling upstream. Don't try to swim upstream.
The bear is the metaphor for us. It's like, fucking grind, and then you get eaten.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, honestly, isn't that it? When we have that kind of lifestyle where we're just working. And I saw that when I worked in cardiac rehab, was the people that did that and just worked when they finally retired and they had a stroke, then they had a heart attack. Yeah. And they were lucky if that was their outcome and they had another chance and be able to do something with that.
We're not getting out of this.
No.
We are all going to cease to exist in physical form. And my thing is, was I tense and rigid and judgmental and angry all the time because things didn't work out my way? We're not meant for that. We learned to adapt. Speaking of trauma, we learned to adapt because we had to survive in society. And our human beings have it ass backwards.
Yeah.
We are meant to serve one another, to be in a constant state of relaxation and flow. When I say relaxation, it does not require effort. We're not talking about passivity. I'm not saying, no, I'm saying that life will guide. You say yes, you do the thing, and you don't take credit for it because that's your ego.
Yeah.
You say, life, thank you, I did it. And sometimes, and this is another part, I was always had to be the one to give and never receive. Oh, I can't do that. The masculine was running the show. And so now I'm going to be cautious with these words because people can contort them and make them, weave them into their own narrative. But masculine and feminine, it's like, hey,
that on here.
This idea of feminine, receive.
Yes.
Okay. You want to do that for me? yes, yes, thank you, and show gratitude. And what I found is that then I'm not the one bearing all
Right.
the load, and it allows me to just be in a more of a flow state.
Yeah.
So that's part of my evolution, is receiving more, just like breath. As we give, we receive. As we breathe in, we breathe out. And that cyclical nature of life is life. Life is breathing us. We're not breathing life, so I keep going back to majority of our bodily functions, not controlling it. I mean, to a certain extent, they can be affected, like what you were talking about. But at the end of it all, I'm not consciously thinking about beating my heart, digesting my food. And we've heard this time and time again. Anybody who watches these kinds of podcasts probably heard this a million times, but I don't care. It's a reminder. We are not making life happen. Life is happening for us, in, through, and as us, in physical form, that changes every second of every day that we have a conscious awareness.
Amen.
So
I feel like I want to give you this mic so you can drop it.
so just I'm surrendering.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I've said that, a million times on here. Like, how is this happening for me? And the more I try to force things or fall into the I shoulds, we should on ourselves all the time. Like, whoa, the more I surrender and just allow things to flow. And it may not look how I thought it was going to look 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever, but just trusting that.
Yeah. Trust. That's a good word. Trust in life's natural unfolding. So I mean, even I shared with you at 4 a.m. wake ups.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment that I have to a client. And coming here, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And I had some caffeine on the way. I had some coffee. And my wife even looked at me and said, "Oh, Jamie, you look so tired." And I got my little girl hanging on me. Daddy, do a craft. I was saying this before we hit record. And my mind went, I got to go. I got to this. And I just, it's a surrender.
Yep.
This life that was created through us meaning my wife and I, is calling for me.
Yeah.
So just acknowledge life.
Yes.
And say, hey, honey, okay, I want to do a craft with you too, because I really do. But right now I have to get ready to go and do something else. But when I come home, if you still want to do a craft, I'll do a craft with you. And her little brain, okay. But it's the point is like, it was everything I've been talking about in action, in real time, a surrender, a release, a letting go of an agenda. And I said, I don't care. This is where I am. And then before I knew it, a toddler brain moved on.
Yeah.
And I kissed my wife goodbye and said bye to everybody and drove here exhausted. And here we are just talking about life.
And here we are. Well, and it was funny when he mentioned that, being exhausted. I had just posted in my stories, like getting ready to record with my guest, but my energy is out of whack. The last 2 days have just been, like all these emotions are stirred up. And I just felt in this really somber kind of energy. So I kind of had to fire myself up too right before we got here. I'm like, well, at least we're on the same page and we can be open and honest about that. Like, we're still going to show up, see what comes through, but be honest about where we're at.
Do you find yourself having any kind of internal judgments about the experience of what we would label somber or listless or even exhausted? Is there a judgment or a story behind it?
Not anymore. Before I would have created some story around that of just being lazy and pathetic or whatever. But now I trust that whatever I'm experiencing is some sort of energetic shift. I'm timeline hopping, whatever. I don't know, releasing. I know that whatever I'm going through, I'm meant to go through. And if that means I'm really high energy one day or if I'm really low energy, I may not always know, but somehow it always gets validated. We're like there's something going on out there that's like, that explains things.
Yeah. The seasons are a great analogy.
Yeah.
Winters are necessary.
Yes.
It's restoration. It's a time for, just solitude, quiet. And that's when most of the demons start to party.
I did a whole episode in winter about silence, and that exact thing is no one wants to sit in silence because that's when this stuff comes up. And winter is a great time, but there's not a lot to do. So you're kind of forced to do that. But that's why people get depressed in the winter, because we're not wanting to really look at our stuff. We don't have those outlets.
The roots that grow, they are still growing under the ground and still doing their thing and feeding the trees, and all this is happening. And again, it's that cyclical pattern, give and receive. And so I welcome those moments, even though majority of the time I'm heavy-hearted.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's more challenging now being a husband and father because, I choose not to walk around.
Right.
Well, I might share with my daughter, hey, honey, daddy's feeling pretty sad right now. And it has nothing to do with you. Um, it's just that I'm working through a few things and I want you to know that I am here for you. And I'm also sad. And that's okay to be sad. Just teaching her and not even teaching, just expressing my honesty. And then she'll receive that. And growing up, I didn't have, I had the opposite. If you really want to get into my childhood, it's like,
We do.
I grew up with the opposite where there was, this is my memory of it, less emotional intelligence. That's not a judgment, just saying there was less willingness to really be with one's own pain without any kind of distraction or substance, or without the pain inside being expressed as anger or violence or some kind of of what's the word I'm looking for? Destructive, whether it be words or actions. And so that led to witnessing parents and other adults consume a lot of alcohol, some drugs. I don't want to say my mother exposed me, but she was in her own way taking after or looking after her brother, who is our uncle, obviously, like I needed to say that, who was a schizophrenic. He passed a long while ago. But so I watched a man, and I'm not exaggerating, had Charles Manson eyes, walking around, rubbing his chest, talking to the corners, you demons, all of this stuff, who attacked my brother one time at 11 years old. I do remember that. But a lot of drinking and a lot of parties, like 3 a.m. parties with boombox playing and Yahtzee and cards and just people being drunk. And it just was the way it was. It was the 80s and around that time. So basically that decade. So there was a lot of instability and substances and a lot of verbal, early on, physical violence, which I'm going to share it. Like a father who would kick in the door and want to fight, and was a barroom brawler, biker type. Yeah. And when I got to know him as he got older and closer to his death, he's just such a tender soul. He just had a lot of pain. He didn't know how to process it. So that's why I'm here. That's why that's my commitment, because I know that lives in me. Yep. I know it lives in my older brother. I know it lived in my mother. I know it lived in my father. It lives in anybody in our orbit. And so if that's in me, it cannot be in some way, shape, or form be expressed in my child's life. And I refuse to be the parent who shoves it all down and pretends that he has it all together because I'm doing something good for my child. I need to do the work so that then I can just be authentic. And in that authenticity, this next life form expresses that. Yeah. That love, that tenderness, that care, that surrender, that service. And also at times that anger, that rage, because I'm not over, like I said, it's yin and yang, right? It's like absolutely. We need it. I use that anger, but I've used it in many cases in my life and still do to this day, destructively instead of constructively. And I just keep asking myself, if I'm angry about something and I'm finding myself resentful and judgmental and judging this from even my wife at times. And one, I'm in resistance to what is. Number one. Number two is that's an old pattern looping. That's what my go-to. I'm not communicating what's underneath it. Yep. So I need to get present to that. Yep. And it's not about getting it right now. It's about communicating to my wife, for example, that, hey, I'm feeling really angry right now. I'm feeling rage. I need space. And because I love you, it's not you. Right. I'm working through something, but in my mind, the voice will say, no, it is her. She didn't do this. She didn't do the dishes. She didn't da. And instead of communicating, hey babe, would you be willing to, I am a work in progress with this stuff, but I think that if my wife were here, she would affirm that at the end of it all, he's committed to this growth and evolution. And about my wife, so here I am, a high achiever, guy that moved out to New York City, all this stuff, right? And I end up being married to a woman she's getting testing done for autism, ADHD, which I see every day. She'll be standing at the freezer and she meant to go get a fork because she's telling me a story, right? Neurodivergent, who is highly sensitive It literally has that highly sensitive trait that documentary was made about. And here I am over here, like, with an agenda and want the place to be spotless. Well, the universe says, yeah, this is your evolution. So let me give you this daughter and this wife and figure it out, dude.
That's how it happens.
Figure it out, man.
Well played.
That's what these relationships are for. They're
So true.
I'm not under some illusion that just because I'm now on a path of internal growth, that it's supposed to be linear or easy. It's just like when I go to the gym, and obviously you go to the gym, it comes with challenge. You have to go above and beyond. It's called in the gym world or the fitness world, progressive overload, right? You have to get uncomfortable. I'm equally committed to the internal, the spiritual gym as I am.
Yes.
In fact, I've pulled back from the physical gym a little bit because of joint issues. I've abused my body for decades.
Yeah.
And I don't mean I worked out and took care of my body. I abused my body. I pushed it as hard as I possibly could. Lack of recovery, Dorian Yates, blood and guts. When I was 250 pounds, I'll be honest, I learned this from my older brother. I love him. And it's not to say anything about that. I'm just speaking about my own journey. I'm working to evolve beyond that. And it's not about better or worse, right or wrong. But I used to go into a room by myself and put on the hardest music I could, your Pantera, your all that Slayer, all that kind of music, and get into such a fight mode.
Yeah.
And the mentality was, it's me against the iron.
Yeah.
I'm going to effing win.
Mm-hmm.
And go and proceed with that mentality. Puke on the gym floor, legs only, never upper body. And that part of me was a way of having a goal, having a bullseye, and not having to deal with the stuff that was unprocessed inside. And so life is guiding me to say, okay, be smarter with your training. You only need to go to the gym 3 days a week, 4 days a week at most. You need more recovery, more other modalities to help recover your body. Eat well. Don't eat to be big. I mean, I look nothing like I used to. And
You were into bodybuilding before, right?
I was into bodybuilding. I was 250. My traps and my ears were roommates. Literally.
Yeah.
I have to show you a picture outside.
Yeah, we'll have to put it in with all the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like literally my traps were up here. And I was on gear. I was on tests and DECA and stuff. When I bring this stuff up, and it's just because I'm not doing it, it's not a judgment towards, in fact, testosterone is really good. We need it.
Right.
You'll feel terrible if you don't have the proper levels in the body, male or female.
Yeah.
So this is no bashing of bodybuilders. I have love and respect for bodybuilders. In fact, a lot of my opportunities in life came from pursuing that path, and I've done some amazing things with it, and I'm grateful for it. And it's time to move on. It's a new chapter. And if I had that mentality that I used to have back then I wouldn't be a good dad because I'd be too self-consumed. But back to my point, I think I was talking about the gym. And so now I take that time that I would normally put into the gym instead of 5-6 days a week. Those other days, when I say days, moments of the day, is dedicated to reading something more thought-provoking or deeper, better understanding of the nature of life as a whole, and or watching a video or doing something like this, and still being an example of both sides of life, the seen and the unseen, the physical and the non-physical. And my thing is that the physical is always a manifestation of the non-physical. And so if I'm not putting effort into the non-physical, then Joe Dispenza talks about this stuff, is that loop will keep going, the thinking and feeling pattern thinking, we'll keep doing the same old, and we'll stay in that box, and that'll be our lives. And we're like, how do I get out of this? Well, you have to change.
Right.
He calls it the river of change. Dip your toes, dip a toe. Just, you don't have to go through the river today. Just bloop, 5 minutes. What happened? Do it again. Take that same mentality of consistency with building up the physical body and build up your spiritual and emotional intelligence. Yeah. All right. So I didn't even, that sounded like preaching.
No.
But that's just me talking. Like that's the way my mind operates.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, I can never go back. I can regress and forget, but life will happen. It will remind me, and then I'll wake up, I'll have an awareness again and say, okay, reset, nothing's wrong. But just like the stock market, this is our evolution of life. It's a trajectory. And sometimes we hit a low, the stock market crashes and we go into, and it could be years for some people. And then there's another awakening of some kind. or life guides you, whether it's a rehab center or a death of someone that you love that wakes you up, or a diagnosis, whatever it is, or a child coming into your life and naturally softening you. I was given a daughter for a reason, and she's fierce. She reminds me every day to just, I'm here.
Yep. Oh, actually, my son did that for me the other day. We were talking about, I was kind of having that funky energy yesterday, and he came home with this picture that he drew for me. And he's like, I drew this for you because I love you. And it was a picture of the moon, but he had me as half the moon. It just had like eyelashes on, eyes on the moon. And then the other half was him as another moon. And he's like, I know you love moons and I know you love me. So I drew this picture because I love you. And I was just like, buddy, thank you. In that moment where I'm just kind of feeling the feels all day, it just kind of helped ground me and slow me down and get back into the simple joys of life. But I was talking to him about how that filled my love cup, that he did that. And then he brought up something to me. We were getting ready for bed, and I've had this freaking toe injury for months now. It's just not my big toe. It's this the toe right next to it. Just painful enough where I can't run. I can't really like push off it. And so I haven't been able to run with him. And he said to me last night that we haven't really been able to do the thing that fills my love cup. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we haven't been able to run. I'm like, oh, and here I'm thinking like, I want to get back my toe healed because I can get back to running and doing these things, not even knowing that to him, that was cutting off a sense of joy, a sense of connection that we had together. And I'm like, how else can I fill your love cup while this toe is healing? What else can I do? So he's not creating this story. That's why I love when you were talking about your daughter, of just acknowledging her in that moment, or when you're feeling sad. Like I do the same thing. I feel like this isn't about you, but like mommy's having a day today. Because it's so easy. Like you said, these stories that we have, like, I don't actually know if those stories are real. Is that a story that my ego created? I shared something on here about, I was the youngest of 4 girls, and I carried this story that I was the last chance for a boy. I created that story. My parents never made me feel that way. I created that story.
Right. Where do you think that came from?
Just everyone always commenting like, oh, 4 girls. And I'm like, well, I'm assuming my dad would have wanted a boy to go hunting with. So I did that and became this tomboy to fill that role. But he never once, I've never even made comments that I can recall of like, oh, I wish you were a boy or whatever. Never said anything like that. Like he actually seemed proud that he had 4 girls, and it was kind of this like thing he could talk about. But I think about that. If we can just take that moment and detach our kids from having those stories about our own moods when we come home from work, or when we're angry, when we're sad, like this isn't about you, but I'm going through some stuff. And yes, I want to do these things with you. And is so, so important.
And I say to my daughters, and I have her say it back to me, you are perfect, whole, and complete. And there's nothing you have to do, have, or be to change that inherent fact. And if you were to listen to my daughter speak, she is so already at, I don't know, so September 18th, she'll be 3. My wife introduced me to nonviolent communication, and she's experiencing this in the household.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of judgments too, and we have to do repair work and all that stuff.
Repair.
I mean, that's just life.
That's just
life. It's not about perfection.
Repair over
it's
here.
Commitment, not perfection, right? But her ability to express how she's feeling. I'm feeling frustrated. I need space. Like, you're not even 3.
Oh yeah.
But she's, Tay, I love you. Just her ability to just connect with her emotional landscape, if you will, is a product of parents who are doing the work.
Yes.
And I will say, and this isn't about who's ahead or who does it better. Both my wife and I, listen, having a child, relocating halfway across the country with a toddler, you want to talk about the life's tests. We have been far from perfect, but when she speaks, when she's even when she's dysregulated, to hear my wife say, oh, honey, are you okay? What can I do? Are you needing whatever? Do you need space? Oh, I'm here. And she may say, I need space, and say, okay, well, I'm still here. And the thing with a toddler brain is it'll go from, I don't want to do it, I want to do it. Literally.
Yeah.
Same. There was not even a beat. They don't know what they want half the time. And they think they want something, but what they really want is that connection.
Yes.
They want that love. They want that safety and trust. Since having a toddler, and even before she was born, is there has been some trust eroded in my marriage because of the stress and how I act. And I drink alcohol to numb. And even to this day, do I do it all the time? I'm in therapy. I work on it. I don't go to AA or anything like that. But man, if I'm stressed or whether it's financial, whatever it is, a couple beers, I'm just like, oh, I feel better. It's just that quick escape. But trust has been eroded little by little because of my impatience and my judgments towards my wife and all of it. Yeah. It's a whole book in itself. And even as I'm speaking right now, I understand that as long as I choose to show up the next moment with the new awareness and say, I'm here, I'm sorry, I love you. I'm here, I'm sorry, I love you. Ooh. And if I do that, it's not just going to do away with all that life experience that was previously well experienced for her, but it will say that, hey, today I'm here, I'm committed to you, and I love you. And so enough of that, it increases the likelihood of there being a more harmonious partnership and longevity in that partnership. And the question is how do you do it when you have a dysregulated toddler, you're exhausted, your wife's exhausted, or your partner is exhausted. You got a lot on your plate. Speaking of doing things you may not feel like doing, part of the matrix, if you will, right?
Yep.
To pay bills and do all this. How do you navigate? There's only one way I know. Deep breath. I surrender.
Yep.
Do not resist what is happening. She's dysregulated. She needs regulation. My commitment is regulation. I don't care what the agenda was. Regulation. Because this here is what life is right now. It's happening in real time. I'm not going to wait for tomorrow to achieve the thing so that life is good. Life is good in the dysregulation.
Yes.
And that for me is the important thing to remember. Even as I'm saying that out loud, that I was speaking to myself right then and there. It's like,
hey, you're speaking to me too.
Yeah. In the dysregulation, that's the beauty. That's the sweetness. It's like you've been called to be regulated in dysregulation.
100%. That was literally last week's episode, was all these moments where I would be dysregulated and completely abandon myself, abandon my inner child, abandon my intuition. But in that, learning, how can I regulate myself in those things and being able to reflect on that, not beat myself up, because I'm thinking like, Tami, this is the work that you do. You do inner child work and you're the one who abandoned her. Like, what the hell? And again, I could have beat myself up or saw this as like, this is a new experience. You've learned how to do this on your own, but now you're welcoming someone else in and your ego is like, whoa, we better tread lightly. There's this new person in the scene and we don't know how they're going to act. You want to be accepted. You want to be loved. So you start bending your, I don't want to say like your morals, your values or whatever, but just there was things that I was doing that like I was checked out. Tami got kicked off the bus and my ego was like, I got this.
Do you feel that you were disconnected from the moment, from fully being embodied in what was really happening around you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the work.
Yeah, it is.
And when I say work, I see language is important because I want to get rid of this idea of what work is. You got to go out and work. That's the grind culture.
Right. This is a different kind.
Right.
Right. I know what kind you're talking about.
Right. And again, it's not a judgment. I'm not judging it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that that's not my commitment anymore. And so then maybe it might sound something like, okay, I'm not in acceptance of what is right now. I'm feeling resistance. I'm feeling tension, I'm feeling anger. Okay. I'm dysregulated. I'm needing some, whatever it is, some space. I need to communicate this. Now, what happens though, if you're dealing with a toddler and it's just the two of you and she's dysregulated or whatever, your toddler's dysregulated and you're like, okay, well, pause. Dad, that's when you communicate honestly. And I'm saying this to me, Daddy's feeling pretty angry too. Should we, you know what? Anger is not wrong. Let's be angry. Do you want to be angry together? You want to punch some pillows? Well, let's go do that because it's here. Don't deny it. That's constructive. That. And then move the energy and say, how you doing? What's alive in you right now? Now, if you got a toddler, it's a little hard to get.
There's certainly ways to translate that into their own little language, though.
Yeah. But here, as we're talking about this, it brings something up for me. You don't need a physical toddler in your life because there's a toddler inside. And that toddler is actually what's running the show. So if I'm dysregulated in dysregulation, that's my toddler reacting to the toddler in front of me, and that's a mirror.
Yep.
So it's an okay. It's not about, I don't think the time to do the inner work is then and there. I think there's an awareness to the commitment of saying, I need to tend to that inner child in some way, shape, or form and allow life to guide you into what that might look like. And then in so doing, as those moments manifest in physical form through that body that is across from you, you just act, you just allow, and you just be in that moment, and it will move through you in the way it's supposed to. But without that inner work, just like memorizing a script or practicing an instrument, if you don't do the reps, can't perform in the moment when things are unexpected. And, I've done a lot of performing on a stage on a drum set. And there's been so many things where it's like, oh, I can't, my monitor went out. I can barely hear the bass. That's where intuition kicks in. You just say, F it, go with it, man. Just play. And then you embody it. You just get in it.
I was a drummer too, so you're speaking
Really?
my inner child as well. Yeah,
You play the drums?
seriously.
Wow.
That's what we should have done. Next episode.
Next episode. Let's
But
do
I
it.
love this because this, again, you're just confirming and validating everything that I experienced, because I was dysregulated in those moments. And it was about allowing that person into that, to be able to see me in that versus me trying to hide it and stuff it down and then deal with it later on my own or process it. But then that person has like no idea what just happened, where I went, what I was going through, versus being able to say, I'm feeling really agitated right now. I need to tend to myself. And that's exactly what happened finally.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it much faster now. And I think that's part of it is the process I can move through it faster. It still happens. I still get triggered, but I'm like, okay, doing those reps has allowed me to have that session be a little bit more efficient.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what happened is I could feel my inner child getting frustrated, trying to get my attention. That was that feeling coming up. I'm like, I need to tend to her. And so, okay, this is what we need to do. We went paddleboarding. I'm like, I got to take her out. I've got to tend to her. I've got to have some one-on-one time. And sometimes it might be punching pillows. And I've had those moments with Arlo too. Like, what do you need right now, buddy? Do you need space? Do you need me to stay? And when he needs a space, I'm like, okay, whenever you're ready, I'm right here. And I think that's what our kids need, but it's also what our inner child needs to know, that we're not going to leave, even when you're angry, because we have to tell ourselves it's safe for us to feel that anger. It's okay. It's okay for us to feel that sadness. What is the outlet? How are you going to support ourselves through those emotions? Because we weren't taught how to feel those.
Yeah. And the emotions are the breadcrumbs. They say this in NBC, it's to what we're needing.
Yeah.
And then the needs are not the strategies in themselves, but we use strategies to meet the needs, right? So, you might be needing some stimulation, some excitement, some joy, and you're used to using the strategy of, let's just say, I don't know, the gym, because maybe you need some connection and community, and there's gym community, right? And let's say you get injured and you all of a sudden that strategy is no longer, at least on the physical level, you doing the act is not there. You can still go there and get community and stuff. But then you say, okay, you know what? It doesn't have to look just like that. And that's for all of us to explore.
Yeah.
Is like, what moment by moment, allowing life to guide us to the strategies to meet our needs. And then if our needs can't be met based on our desires, right? Say I'm wanting some stimulation and but I'll give my wife, let's say she's on the couch and contact napping and breastfeeding.
Yep.
And the strategy is for a run.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants stimulation and she wants whatever. Well, then we can be with that.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is to be with the aliveness inside. And the aliveness might show up as what we label as grief, as a longing for something that not being able to do it in the moment can lead to listlessness, just looking out the window and saying, oh, I just feel kind of blah now. And that's life.
Yeah.
We're trying to avoid all of the feelings associated with unmet needs and only trying to experience the ones with met needs. That's the problem with positive culture as well. Grind culture, positive culture, all this
positivity.
And which I'm very cautious with that word these days, because again, knowing manifestors and these different types of people, I don't think that it's toxic to be a grinder, because for those people, they're not grinding.
Right.
But here's the thing. If you're a high achiever, but you're freaking miserable, just take a look at yourself. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, right, or wrong. I'm just saying that's where I'm doing my excavating. I came to the realization through the process of being in relationship with my wife, where it's like, hey, wait a minute. Let me pull back a little. Let me relax. Let me allow. Let me be guided. And there's been a better flow. I was a teacher in a classroom teaching NFPT curriculum for an organization called the Second You Foundation. Check them out. They do great, great work. It originally started as an organization. Hector Guadalupe founded it. It was originally started as an organization to educate, certify, and help get employment for formerly incarcerated men and women in the fitness wellness industry, to help bridge that gap between corporate gyms and boutique gyms and help people get in the door and get the certification. So I would teach for them. Well, I did a talk once in front of about, 300 people. And I told them flat out, I just let it go. I don't even have a clue. I have video of it so I can watch back now. I'm like, oh, that sounded pretty good. Oh, I said that. Ooh, what did I even mean with that? But I was nervous. Because I get nervous when I speak in front of people. But life moved through me, and I had people coming up to me just saying they were really moved by what I had to say. And one even said, you should think about public speaking. And I said, well, if I had this agenda in the script, I lose it. And people can kind of they're like, wait, you were talking about this, now you're talking. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That's the way my brain works right now. And that's okay, because I can go into judgment about that and say, oh, I can't do this. And this is important for me to say, is that where attention goes, power flows, right? Yeah. Power flows to the focus of our attention. So if I'm even on a subconscious level, believing that I have a dysfunctional brain and I have a bad memory. No, I have a unique, perfect brain that operates exactly how it should be working. And my memory is perfect because whatever's meant to move through this body is going to move through it in divine time. Yep. Therefore, everything that I said about myself before is a fallacy. It's not even rooted in reality. And the only way I would convince myself of such is if I was comparing myself to what we consider a brain that is good.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. Well, I recognize that as once I learned about channeling, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes total sense of why I do the podcast the way I do and why it can't be scripted or why I forget things the second I say them, because it's just coming through. Like whatever is meant to come through will come through. And the more I trust that, the clearer the message is, the more I try to get in my way. And it was funny because I had to do a couple talks a couple weeks ago where I needed to put slides together. And I was like, oh, like I used to love that because I didn't trust my ability to channel. And so I needed as many words on the slide as possible so I could script it, right? Because I didn't want to forget what I was going to say. Like I needed cues. And now I'm like, I just want to go in there and talk about this topic. I don't need a slide. And it actually was kind of stressing me out a little bit. And then I had to remember, like, just have these here just to keep you on task as far as like the timeline goes, but trust your ability to channel. Like I didn't need to rehearse it 18,000 times. Just know the transitions. And then whatever comes out during those slides comes out. And I was like, okay, but I had to release a lot of stress around that.
I laughed when you were talking about the slides because in the beginning we were thinking Jameson, who introduced us. And I'm in this, he called it peer performance group, monthly meetings for entrepreneurs, people who are trying to build business and live a more fruitful life, if you will. That's just my take on it. And to get over the blocks and to be held accountable, all this stuff. So I have a program that I could open up my phone. I left it over there. It's just like slide after slide and note after note and bullet points and all this stuff. And it's called Empowered You. And it was going to be an online program. And I was just forcing it and trying to make it happen. And basically in one of the meetings, he said, just give me your pitch. And as soon as I was like, okay, well, let me pull up my slides, everything shut down.
Yep.
And I got nervous and my heart started, and I felt my face get warm and I started to get performance anxiety. And I said, I'm not aligned right now. And I'm trying too hard to create something. So I think on a subconscious level, one of my hopes is coming here and making a connection with you as someone who's already doing something in that kind of world online like this. How might that manifest for me in providing a platform for other people who feel called to it to be a part of it. And so slides and all this stuff that break down what Empowered You is and all these different strategies to help maneuver life's challenges and mental blocks and all this stuff. And I'm like, if I try to teach that way, I will not be effective. And that's not a judgment. It's an understanding of how I operate
And honoring that.
and honoring it. And my wife brought this to my attention. She said, I really think you're more of a facilitator. You're not meant to teach people how to better themselves. You're there to create something that gives them the space for them to flourish and to realize themselves.
Yep.
And if I'm doing it with bullet points and strategies like the triangle of disempowerment and using nonviolent communication and teaching it as a curriculum, that's not my role.
Yeah.
That's not my role. How do I know? Because it's not my superpower. It's a zone of competence at best.
Yes.
I was able to do it in the classroom, and that's why I was bringing up the Second U Foundation. But I had to study like I was studying for a test to teach it. And I got better at it because I was teaching it. And they would say, if you really want to master something, you teach it, right? So I got really good at understanding biology, physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, bones and even though I've been certified for almost 20 years as a trainer, I really got to understand things that I wasn't even aware of because I was teaching it. Now, I can do that, but man, did it cause stress. It caused impatience. Now, there's a realization with all this. I'm meant to serve in a certain way that does not require structured rigidity. And so we're doing it here and now, and I'm in exploration. I'm in surrender to allowing life to present itself and how that's supposed to manifest. Before I was trying to force it, I was trying to be a salmon, swim upstream.
Yep.
And I said enough. I said this to Jameson and everybody in the meeting. I have no freaking clue what I'm doing actually. Right now I'm training clients. I'm a dad, life is wherever life is calling me. I feel less stressed now because I'm not trying to make this program happen. I don't know mind with it all, but I just know it cannot be bullet point after bullet point, fact after fact.
Yep.
Trying to fix somebody.
I'm so glad you said that again. Feel very validated over here because I created, this was back in 2021 after I was running my online program that I ran for 2 years, loved it. And it was more nutrition and body kindness. And it was 6 weeks. It was structured. And that's where I was not realizing I was exercising my ability to channel in the live calls. But then when I started to notice the pattern of self-sabotage even creeping in with these women, regardless that they had these amazing transformations, regardless that they were starting to treat their bodies kinder, eventually trauma resurfaces and those suppressed emotions, like things come up and we go back to old habits. And I was like, not on my watch. Like I got to get to the root of this. And then I found inner child work. And so I created this 12-week program called Nutrition for the Soul. And I loved it. But when I started to run it, I only ran it 4 times. And I feel like it's this golden nugget I still have there, but I can't run it this way because I recognize I'm trying to force people to heal their childhood wounds in 12 weeks. I didn't do that. I'm still doing it. Mm-hmm. It's been years in the making. I'm like, how do I facilitate that? How do I help them move through it when it comes up for them, when they need this information, when they need it? Because you're right. When you try to structure that and bullet point it, it's maybe not the message that they're needing in that moment. And so it's not going to register. It's not going to resonate. And so I had to stop that program. So I'm in that same, what do I do with this? How do I help move people through this? And right now, so when I do one-on-one coaching, sometimes the people are like, well, what is your method? What is we just get on the call and I intuitively connect with you and I let your inner child guide that session. Yeah. And I chime in too. And we let whatever comes up, come up. And there's always some sort of whoa, major aha epiphany. I would have missed that if I was trying to be structured and I got to do my standard coaching procedures. You miss that stuff. And so that's why I don't have that. It's a one-on-one session with me, you, our intuition, all the things.
Yeah. My thing is I'm in a process of, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Is not just relying on time for money.
Yeah.
Just showing up physically to do a task with someone. And I love the work I do, but creating something that is unique and I would say more fluid, but with structure.
Yes.
I love money, but what I care about is being provided for, receiving in the ways that's meant for me to receive.
Yeah.
I'm not as interested in 10 cars and building that kind of wealth. I'm the kind where as the wealth accumulates, how can I use this to expand and push out there? I'm not trying to get the big house and all that.
Right.
In fact, that's just more work.
Right.
Unless I can hire people and then they have a job and can provide for it. It's always about passing it on, right? And that cyclical giving and receiving. So how can that energy that we call money be drawn to me so that I can do more and so that I can have more peace of mind, because prosperity consciousness, I grew up in a household that, you know, you just scraped by. I mean, we were on welfare growing up. And blame and shame and guilt and victim consciousness, right? And it's not a judgment. I'm just saying I recognize that was victim consciousness now.
Yeah.
And so how do I release all that and say, okay, life, call me to serve in that service, provide not only what I need, but then some, so that it can then permeate out from there. I can't do it alone. That was my realization, is that
Right.
I don't want to do it alone. I want to be a facilitator, to serve in the moment, and to use my superpowers along with someone else who has superpowers. And those superpowers come together to unite and make a stronger, more impactful, so we'll call it service, even program is like these terms. I'm like, just way of people coming in and growing in life. And when I say growth, I'm talking about self-love, self-connection, congruency, operating with flow, less resistance, less forcing, but also being productive. And so I'm really open to that. And I know that the seeds are being planted, and, you know, they're still underground. How far, I don't know right now, but I'm just waiting for life to say, hey, we're ready to break ground at some point with the right people. Because again, I'm not interested in sitting in front of a camera, looking at a camera and just coaching people. I don't even really care to do online personal training sessions. I'm just being honest. I do them and I find the joy in them, and I accept it for what it is. And I don't have a negative story about it, but
You know, there's more.
life is guiding me, and it's saying, you know, this isn't the only way. And I don't have the answers right now, but I'm making myself available for them. And I think that part of that journey, and I'm certain, I don't have the answers, but there's a certainty in me that said yes to this, to do this talk, to even before we're doing this right now, even before this was to say yes to the Jameson thing,
right?
To force a program and try to contain it in a certain amount of weeks to make money so I don't have to do time for money. Life said, no, we're going to bring up something for you that has been part of your life, your whole life. And we're just going to remind you of it. And you needed this process to realize it. And I hit a low, and I'm like frustrated and feeling a little down and like, oh, you know, what am I going to do? And the problem is that my little ego self is trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I need to just let go and just say yes to the next yes and allow life to guide. And then the people will come into my life and it'll unfold exactly how it's supposed to. And it may not look like my plan, but it's going to unfold how it's supposed to. And that's the surrender. As Michael Singer puts it best, the surrender experiment. I'm constantly in it. You know, and I don't know if he's a billionaire or a multimillionaire, but whatever he is beyond wealthy, what we would consider wealthy. It's people like that are my inspiration,
right?
Who do a lot of good in the world and who get up and serve and say yes to their family and say yes to the changes in life and the letting go of old chapters, or turning the page to the old chapter and putting chapter 46.
Right. Yep.
May 2nd. But that was my birthday, 46. Now what is this chapter saying, and not trying to rewrite something that's already been written.
Exactly.
And that's the challenge for all of us.
Oh yeah.
You know,
we want to go back to what's familiar and what feels comfortable just because it's familiar, but it's often not comfortable at all.
And we create our suffering because we're holding on to something that's not meant for us anymore. And that's hard to receive. And our grind culture will say that's a weak mind. And you just got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, and you can do it. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Yes, this is all true. And I say it this way with this kind of tone, not to make fun of it, but to say that, man, what would happen? And this is for me. Like, I'm speaking to myself right now.
I always give myself therapy on these podcasts.
What might it look like to say, hey, have somebody else grab your bootstraps and say yes to that, and just relax your shoulders, and what's in front of you, say yes to that. And oh, wow, that's beautiful right there. That's why I was looking at the trees and they were blowing. I was like, God, that's beautiful. And I started to feel calmness come over me. And all that old conditioning of trauma and of hard bodybuilding, it melted, and life just started to happen. And that's how my goal, if I have a goal, it's to be that as often as possible, to allow that to be experienced in this form as much as I humanly can. And then whatever's meant to happen, say yes to it, and just exactly what we're doing right now.
And knowing that whatever does happen is for you, whether that feels like, oh, that was another lesson.
Yeah.
Or it was guiding me to the next yes. But
Yeah.
sometimes like, oh, I needed to go back and learn that lesson. Or I needed to go back and realize how far I've come and maybe pick up a little nugget that maybe I missed before. That's the work. And everything that you just said, that's the kind of work that we're talking about is how can I be in that state more often?
And it requires the reps. There's no way around it.
It absolutely
You
requires
can't go to the gym
There's no bypassing
and work
it.
out. And no, here's the thing is, and this is for the fitness culture too, because I am still in fitness and that is my business. You cannot go to the gym, lift weights hard, especially for these terms now, they crack me up, natural. You cannot go to the gym, abuse your body, create trauma, microscopic tears to the tissues and stress and inflammation, and then go and work a stressful job and not eat well and not sleep well and expect your body to actually build muscle. Nor can you do all the aforementioned and go to the gym and not test your body beyond its comfort zone. So it's like an all-encompassing, you have to do all the things in order for your physical experience to manifest as your desire. Well, I don't know how that came out, but you get what I'm saying.
100%.
Now, the same thing is in the unseen. But here's the thing is that, and I do want to go here with this, with people who are maybe total body weight overweight or holding on to too much adipose tissue or especially visceral fat for total health purposes. If you're needing to reduce your total body weight or get rid of body fat, increase lean muscle, change your body composition, all that, live a healthier, more balanced life, don't just go and hire a trainer. Ever. Do the inner work yourself. It's a tandem thing. So you need the support, you need the structure, you need all of the physical things in place. And if you are still operating with a certain consciousness and you work with a trainer 3 hours a week, and then you go and all those other hours when you are just with you, if you are continuing old cycles and old habits and old thinking patterns and beliefs and actions, you will not get the results. You will get frustrated. You will potentially, for some people, even blame the trainer and say, oh, this, that. We're in control of our lives. And everything is in the unseen. So I have to go within first. I have to show up to the training session saying, you're not my savior. I do need guidance. I need accountability. These are valid needs. And I know that I also have to do all the other stuff. And that's why my philosophy, you go to my website, it's jrobinsoncoaching.com, is training from the inside out.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, that was why I did my complete rebrand. I don't want to be the dietitian who just gives meal plans because I know it's not about the food. And if I just give you that, I'm giving you a Band-Aid to cover up the wound that is there of why you don't feel worthy of feeling good, why you don't feel worthy of making yourself a priority, why you don't feel worthy of good quality nutrition, why you don't feel worthy of going out for a walk when you've been working all day. Like, we got to get to that. And if I just give you a meal plan or just give you a workout, I'm just ignoring the wound, and I can no longer do that. Morally and soulfully, I'm like, I can't be a part of that. I can help heal the wound with that. Absolutely. Just like I can be your guide, I can be your coach, I can help heal those wounds with fitness, with movement, and helping you realize how important that is to move your energy, to clear your emotions, all of those things, and help you start to build your confidence and your strength, your internal strength. But I love that there's people like you that we're getting that. This is not about the outside world. This is about going in, and you're going to keep beating your head against a wall and getting those same tests because you never learned the lesson.
The fitness culture, and this has been before even social media, like back in bodybuilding.com and MySpace. Well, MySpace was social media too, but before like Facebook and Instagram and all the other ones. It was no different then. I mean, I used to work with supplement companies. I don't want to give names because I don't want any kind of backlash from the things I've already done. But around 2007, 2008, I was doing some pretty cool stuff with supplement companies, specifically one big one. And I was going out to the Olympias and the Arnold Classics and being a representative and doing that international ad campaigns and stuff like that, and workout videos and all that kind of stuff. And I'm grateful for it. The problem is that the fitness culture is one big, huge Band-Aid. And like you put it, it's all a business. They're trying to sell products that are actually not the most healthiest for you. And for convenience and to make money. And they used people like me. And it's not a victim statement. I'm not saying they used me.
Right.
I'm saying that I chose to be a part of that because I didn't have the awareness of what I was doing. Now I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right? But at the time, I was in my mid to late 20s and 240, 50 pounds and ripped and all that stuff. And I was a part of something that was a money-making machine and using people like me to say, if you have this product, you can look like this. And so to this day, what's the newest creatine on the market? What's the newest this? What's the newest supplement? And I'm like, well, first of all, let's look at your activities of daily living.
Right.
And that includes what you're eating.
There's no magic pill, no magic supplement.
No. And in fact, a lot of the supplements are crap.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm not putting down supplements. I think there's a time and place for everything. Yeah. What we're talking about is the thing under the thing, so to speak, which is your thoughts, your belief about self. Am I worthy? Am I worthy to be healthy? Am I holding on? Oh, but I love, if you grow up in the South, for example, oh, there's an emotional attachment to growing up grandmother's whatever food.
Because it was nurturing.
It was nurturing. There's an emotional memories of family getting together, and you're passing this on to your child. Well, that's not a bad thing if it's done in moderation. But when it becomes a way of life, well, then you got something to look at there. So it's allowing, like we're talking about, being a facilitator to allow the person to have an awareness to say, am I ready? Am I willing to choose differently? And how do I go about doing that? Because you're not my savior. Thank you for facilitating a space in which I could get to that point. Now it's the batons in the individual's hands, and people will always make the most empowered decision when it's first and foremost intrinsically motivated, and it is intrinsically motivating, and there's a willingness to make a subtle change. It could be a drastic change or it could be a subtle change. But whatever it is, unless it's stimulated from within, it's activated from the power that is already inherently within in each and all of us. Until that happens, you have nothing. Now you're reaching outside of yourself, giving up the power that's already within you and saying, please help me.
Yes.
And tell me what supplement to take. And, oh, I saw this article on X, Y, and Z. What do you think? No.
Yeah.
Pause. Do your reps inside. In tandem, get the support you need, which could be a personal trainer, a dietitian, all the other modalities that are necessary, and then find your path in life and love yourself along the way. That's the biggest problem, is we're waiting to achieve some body type or some achievement in order to feel good. Well,
you're waiting your whole life.
We talked earlier, learn to find the peace in the chaos. Learn to regulate in dysregulation. It's always the kids. It's always that toddler's tantruming. My toddler's now tantruming. My growth is the inner work reps. Oh, I did the reps, breath, boom. I'm grounded. I'm here. Yeah. I love you. I'm sad too. Yeah, it's not about fixing it. I'm here though. Let's be in this space together. Oh, you need space? Okay, I'm going to go right over here, but I'm right over here because I'm not abandoning you. And we need to grab a mirror, boom, look in it, and do that for ourselves day in and day out. Once that level of nurturing and love and trust and compassion is experienced from the adult version, the wise self to the inner child, once that happens, we can then mirror that through just natural expression to those around us. And by being that example, pass the baton and say, it's up to you now.
Yep.
Got to be ready and willing. And I'm still a work in progress. You are, we all are. And here's the thing is, and this is a teaching moment. Damn it.
Bring it. We're ready.
Is we're not going to stop until we don't know we exist anymore, which means that we have cease to exist in physical form. And I don't know the answer what happens after that, but what I do know is that the growth doesn't stop. The new chapter will evolve. I worked with a client at the YMCA. I do part-time at YMCA East just to be in community, work with kids and to be in, in the community. And I got a client, 81 years old, very active guy who was swimming, biking at his age. He had a stroke on my birthday, May 2nd of 2024. Ended up paralyzed on his right side. I'm not an occupational therapist. I didn't go to school. I didn't become a doctor, but I was called to work with him through the YMCA with his occupational therapist and his physical therapist to make sure that we're all on the same page and do his physical training. And what I ended up doing, and this is what I'm saying, I never thought in a million years I'd be doing neuroplasticity training with an 81-year-old man who on my birthday, literally 2 days before I got in the vehicle to drive here, to move here, that I would be working with him after a major, major event in his life. So all I'm saying is that you never know what life is going to bring. And each moment we can tap into that power that's within us and say yes to what's in front of us and to live the most empowered life that we know how to, based on our level of consciousness, based on our beliefs about ourselves, the world, etc., and be willing to explore other views and receive, so that whatever's around you, receive it so that you can then do the inner work. And what that would look like for me was going to Celebration Spiritual Center, being reminded of the truth that I'm perfect, whole, and complete. There's nothing that I have to do, have, or be to change that inherent fact. I say it to myself all the time. I'm passing it on to my daughter. I don't care if you put on a little body fat. I don't care if, somebody lashes you. That's not about you. It's about them. It's about their discomfort of with you, and you are just being you. And so to my Lizzos out there and all the people who embrace their bodies and say they live it proudly, fitness culture, it's not about how you look, it's how you are being. And I know it's completely the opposite of the message. What do you mean? You need to lose weight. You need to be healthy. There are ripped people who are very unhealthy. Yeah. And there are people who are holding on to a little bit more body fat that are stronger, more capable, and healthier regarding their blood work and organ function than someone who may look like they are the fittest people on the planet. Yeah. And I'm an example. There are people who are holding on to body fat that can outperform me times 20. I got injuries, man. I lift intentionally slow loop motor control now because I'm thinking about how my body's feeling. I feel into my workouts. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is to commit to the activity and say, is this what my body needs right now? And allow it to guide me. This morning was questionable. I did a workout, didn't get a lot of sleep, 4 a.m. wake ups, and I felt pretty tired and achy afterwards. I'm like, well, I'm not saying it was wrong, but I'm wondering if that was the best strategy. I'm wondering if maybe on those kind of days that I don't do something more like some basic moderate core work and some stretching and rolling type things, and then maybe an Epsom salt bath or something, and relax my mind and commit on a day that I get, or a good night's sleep and I get to sleep in a little bit more, that's the day that I go in and I do the heavier resistance training. Yep. Oh my gosh. But I did it anyways. But man, I'll tell you right now, like right there in my back, I feel like it's a knot. I need to work it out later because it's like I'm driving here and I'm like, because I was doing a push-pull day.
It's so funny because my friends make fun of me all the time. It drives them crazy that I don't have a workout plan. I don't follow anything. Like, I come in and I check in with my body. How do you feel? If I didn't get enough sleep, I still need to go there to clear my energy. Like mentally, I need to be there for that community and all those other things. And I found other outlets now. But it's funny when you brought that up earlier because it was 2 years ago, right around this time when I had a freak leg injury where it swelled up twice the size. And I would still go. I would just do upper body. I'm like, I just needed to be there to move. But that's when I started to lift intuitively. There's some days like I feel it. I'm going to lift heavy. I'm going to go hard. Other times like, no, I'm just going to do like lighter reps. But I listen to my body. I lift intuitively now. Good. It's a much different experience and I've had much less injury because of it. Man, it's a stupid toe.
And if you're a competitor, I mean, let's be clear, if you're in a sport or a physique type competition, bodybuilding, physique, whatever, figure, all those, anything where you're in a competition, you need to,
there's a difference.
There's a difference. But that chapter's over for me. I did the Eastern USAs in 2012, just shy of a year before I got knee surgery, microfracture knee surgery, and said, no, it's not the path. I don't want to keep doing this to my body. Although I have, just not competing.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about that. And since this is a place for vulnerability, and that's my commitment, is not only have I a couple different times gotten back on the gear, and it's been many years now since back when I lived in Brooklyn, and I lived in Connecticut for a few years before that, and here for a year. But I went back on the gear and I got excited. Because I was bringing back that older version of myself and that identity, but it doesn't last. And so I wasn't doing it for a competition purpose, but I was still willing to do it and convincing myself that it was a necessary thing at that stage. But with regards to the competition, there came a point where I realized that I need to start treating my body with more love, true fitness, true wellness, feeling good before just looking good. Listen, I have two aspects of my psyche right now. The blood and guts, Dorian Yates, Rocky Balboa mentality, which it's not, I'm not saying it's good, bad, right, or wrong, but it just lives in me. And this part that's calling me, saying, come, it's okay. You can let it go. It's calling me and saying, just come over here. It's not about, you don't have to completely let it go, but be more intelligent. Let wisdom guide you on this path now instead of forcing it. And man, it was a freaking just tug of war.
I was just going to say the same word, tug of war, and what it feels like.
I don't know. I don't have the answers. I just know that everything we're talking about is my commitment. And I wake up every day, put my feet on the ground and say, okay, when I remember, I say, where's life calling me? Flow into the day. When I'm not connected, my ego takes over, my agenda gets in the way. I become impatient with my wife. I start to judge people around me. I start to look at me. And I did that this morning. Now that I come to think about it, to this day, I'm not doing it now. I'm relaxing my arms. But I was thinking about if my name is Jamie Robinson, I go to my Facebook page, my Instagram, Jamie Robinson Athlete, and look at it, and you'll see the camera angle shows me a good angle. And I actually edited it so you didn't see me walking to and from because I look thinner, but I look a little thicker and my shoulders are bulkier. It's still in me. This shirt, did this fit? My shoulders look big. I'm worthy. I don't need that. That's not who I am. And that's the trainer I want to be. It's not about how you look. The irony of it, I'm sorry to say, because you're not going to look that way. Your skin's going to start to sag. I mean, I got a chain here that's busted. I used to have arms that were, I'm thin. My older brother jokes with me. He calls me super slim now. And I laugh. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am super compared to what I used to be. I was bulky. My face was like this. My neck was like this and shoulders. And it's like, you know what? One is I can't hold on to it because my joints hurt. And two is it's just, that was the path then. And it's not wrong. But now
Right, it's almost like a costume that you like put on this muscle suit.
Yeah. I did a men's experience one time, men's group. It wasn't aligned for me long term, but I did it. And there was a group of men that I was in, and they turned to me and they said, and I love you. I don't know with your podcast, do you swear?
Oh yeah.
Okay. He said, I'm so used to being around a toddler. I'm not.
Yeah, right.
One of the guys turned and looked at me, and I'm still connected with him on social media. And he said, yeah, man, look at you. You're like a freaking Adonis. And I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say Adonis, but he basically said, look at you. You got big muscles. Who the fuck are you, though? I don't see shit. Like, who are you?
Ooh.
And of course, my ego was like, who am I? Who? Yeah. Right? And, I was younger. And now it's like, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm life happening. I'm not the body. The body is the temple that houses life moving. And so whatever that looks like. And for Western culture, I get it. Especially for grind culture, this sounds woo-woo. I know it does. They're like, oh yeah, but you got to do that. I get it. And it's just my commitment. Again, I'm not interested in trying to prove people right or wrong, or I'm just saying, if somebody receives this and says, you know what, I'm kind of on the fence too, and I hear you and I see you, and yeah, that feels good. Maybe it'll spark a little something in whoever's watching this and say, you know what, I am good. I'm perfect, whole, and complete. Yeah, I'm holding on. But I don't want to take action from lack or limitation or unworthiness. I want to take empowered action saying I'm perfect, whole, and complete, and I'm choosing to do this because I want to live a vibrant life, because I want to feel better in my body. I feel run down and I'm carrying excess weight that I know if I release it, I don't get rid of it. I release, and it starts in here. And once that happens, you'll take the necessary action. It's not going to be linear. It's going to be like the stock market, but it's going to happen. And once that happens, all of a sudden the trainer that's perfect for you will show up. You'll have inspiration for an app. It might come in form of a dietitian who doesn't use apps. It might come in the form of just, I'm done eating that food. I don't even want it anymore. And then you get inspired to research online of alternatives, healthy alternatives. And you're like, oh, I told myself all these years I don't like to cook. I actually don't mind it. I got the time now. Didn't have the time before. My kids are in college. Life guides. And then you're all of a sudden you're starting to just be in a flow state. It's not going to happen by the soil of unworthiness, of lack, limitation, doubt, of not enoughness. Life is going to bring you what you need based on the level of your consciousness and your beliefs about self. And then those people apps, things, whatever will just appear. Just like my wife did, that gave me a child, that brought me to a spiritual center, that led me here to talk about this. I couldn't talk like this 10 years ago. Are you kidding me? I was doing cocaine and drinking all the time and in real estate. And I did real estate for a short period of time in New York area. I was just so misaligned, and it took suffering to guide to say, okay, I don't know anymore. I don't know. I'm sad. I'm grieving because I did love the person that I was with for 6.5 years. All the physical stuff, I had it all together. The body, doing photo shoots, parties, yachts, living in the New York City area, rooftop parties. It all looked good. And then it all went away, and I had to be with me.
Yeah.
And I had to say, that's not what it's about. I can enjoy those kinds of things, but it's not what it's about. So who am I? And that's when I realized, and it was life moving through me and through other people and books and whatnot to bring it to my awareness, is that life is just happening. And I thought I was going to be guided to an ashram in California, and life said, no, you're meant to steer this way. Go to Marianne Williamson. My friend Michael Alago, who is really loved that man, invited me to a lecture, a Marianne Williamson lecture about A Course in Miracles at Marble Collegiate Church on Tuesday nights. I went there. By the way, I moved out of a 2-story, really nice place with my ex-partner and a dog and a backyard and all that in Queens, and moved into my music studio and slept on a blow-up bear mattress and showered at the gym. I was living differently.
Yeah.
Said yes to the next thing, which was to say yes to Marianne Williamson's lecture with my friend. Went there and just felt filled up. Yeah. I basically internally, I didn't physically cry, but internally I'm like, I'm home. And then the next week I said to Michael, I said, I want to go. Like, I'm going. And he's like, I can't go. I got a commitment. And he said, but go. And so I went, and I wasn't getting into a relationship. My agenda, I was going to go into an ashram and find myself. And I was on the right path. I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. I'm on a spiritual path now. And I got this agenda, and it's calling me, I thought. See, the ego's funny. It's
so funny.
And then said, no, just say yes to this. And I did. And then this woman sits in front of me, and I was kind of like Tony Robbins, how he describes when he saw his wife, and there was this energy. It wasn't about physical attraction. My wife is beautiful. It wasn't about like, oh, she's hot. No, it was like, who is this person? And there was a natural talking.
Like I remember this person or know this person.
Well, she grew up here. I grew up in Beloit. We met in New York City. We grew up 50 miles apart, moved out east, different time frame, met in that type of setting. But I had to be willing. I had to let go and deconstruct and start to reconstruct from ground in order to draw in these kinds of experiences and people to say yes. Now, has it been easy? We all know the answer to that. Absolutely not. In fact, it's in some ways been even harder. Yeah. Because it's easier to distract. It's easier to numb. It's easier to do the fun thing all the time, as opposed to not drinking and being with your emotions instead, or not abusing your body anymore and attaching to some body type and saying that's who I am, and being super slim guy and saying that's okay. Yeah. And saying, yeah, thank you. And actually being thankful. Right. Thank you. That means that I'm probably doing pretty good because, whatever. That's all a made up story anyways too. But yeah, it's just funny how life works. And I never imagined I'd be living in Wisconsin again. I love Madison, by the way. In fact, not a day goes by that I don't realize that, this city's amazing. And that I wanted this even when I wanted New York when I wanted New York. I was living it, doing it, parties, underground stuff, which I can't talk about. I've done some crazy shit. Crazy. Yeah. And, but now I got a family. It's a new chapter. Yeah. That chapter's been written. Can't take it back. Now we're sitting here talking about what some may consider woo-woo. And you know what? Good. I embody it.
Same. Yeah.
We didn't talk a lot about my childhood, but you can gather that there was a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, not a whole lot of family, like knit family stuff, dinners, and we ate food separately. And I was incarcerated a lot as a young person. I got beat into a gang at 12 years old. In Beloit, Wisconsin, the Gangster Disciples, which is really not a white gang. You might be learning things about Larry Hoover. He's the one that started this gang in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, in Beloit, there was kind of like a offshoot of that, some people moved from Chicago and started bringing people into the gang, and it wasn't just black people. And so I was beat into the gang and seeking out acceptance, love. Why would a 12-year-old kid do something like that?
Right.
You know? And so yeah, a lot of crime, a lot of stealing people's stuff. Till finally I shot into the gun into a rival gang, crowd of a rival gang, vice lords at the time, and got incarcerated. Went on the run first for a month in Kansas. This is a 12-year-old child. Talk about
That's my
trauma
daughter.
and wounds.
My daughter is turning 12 this year.
And this is where my mom, if she were here, I'd grab her and say, I love you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know any better. And you didn't know any better either.
No.
But incarcerated for about a year, reckless endangerment with a firearm instead of attempted murder because I was a child and who knows what other reasons. But yeah, ankle monitor and probation. But I was in and out of juvie a lot before that. And one day was enough.
Yeah.
And so then the vice then became the sports and the weight training and still partying, drinking into high school and stuff and doing the parties, football team and all that stuff. But I was never really, well, I actually want to go back even further. That all stemmed from the house that we lived in had mushrooms growing in the floor. And it's not, again, it just did.
Right.
One of them did on Grant Street. Grew up around a schizophrenic uncle that would be there for months at a time and then gone for months and then back for months and a lot of partying. That generation, the boomers just partied and you do your own thing. My mom would give me cigarettes. I would go and get speed and beer and cigarettes and stuff for my mom. They would sell it. All I had to have was a little note. So it was just a different time and a different generation and young people who had children who didn't know, were doing their best to navigate life. Right. I mean, I've done what, if you want to talk about drugs, I mean, in my adult life, I've done cocaine, ecstasy, mushrooms. I've done marijuana, which I hate personally. A lot of drinking. Drinking is kind of my vice, even to this day. And there's probably other drugs. I've done acid before. So I've done steroids off and on. Yeah. So I've always been a guy who's gone to substances to deal. Even when I was doing work with the supplement company, I partied.
Yeah.
But I was also on drugs and younger and lifting weights a lot and just my genetics and was a muscular guy and had apparently the face for it. I just want to change that now, but it all stems from that childhood, all that trauma, the dad kicking in the door, the different boyfriends, the welfare, the life experiences, my brother and I being separated, me living with my mom in a room at one of her friends' house, sleeping on the floor in trauma. And you know this because of the work you do. Dr. Gabor Mate, I watch him a lot, talks about all the checklists, the boxes for if you've experienced trauma, the sexual abuse. I haven't been sexually abused myself, but I've witnessed it. So like the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, all the different boxes, I can check all of them, the red flags. Yeah. And it's not a poor me. It's just saying, hey, there's a recognition that there was some and I can dumb it down and say, hey, no, my life wasn't that bad because let me tell you, because I've been to Haiti, by the way, and I've seen poverty in third world country. So I've been on the grounds there in mud huts. And so I can say, oh, I didn't have it like the people in Haiti.
Right.
But that's not loving. No. Because we all have trauma. We all have a valid life experience. I'm not living in it, but I need to work on it while I simultaneously live that empowered life that we were just talking about. But how am I going to live that empowered life unless I clean up the stuff that's preventing me from it?
Exactly.
How am I going to do that? Exactly. I can fake it. But that's me doing the real estate, having the model girlfriend, literally, we were models. We'd done a lot of modeling work together, parties and naked people and the drugs and the this and the, man, he's living a bad, awesome life. At surface, it's fake. It's called fake deep.
Yeah.
Real deep is to be with the emotions, to live authentically, to be vulnerable, to be willing to not have it all together and to still step up and say yes. And Brene Brown talks about that. She's always talking about dare greatly.
Yeah.
Bring it all.
Yep.
And that's what I'm willing to do now. And before it was a facade. It was the little boy with the big body in the circle of men who weren't all men themselves, by the way, saying, who the fuck are you? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I still don't. I'm learning.
Right now, I'm not afraid to look at that and try to answer that and find the answer because I'm always growing. I'm always evolving. But I remember taking that hard look, like, who are you, Tami? I'm like, shit, I don't know. I have no idea. And it requires a lot of removing the layers and the masks and the costumes and be like, whoa.
Yeah. And then we don't realize it, and we make a few videos and post it on Facebook today
Oh,
and realize, oh, I had a mask on.
uh-huh.
Because why did I have to cut that first little part out? Honestly. Not because it made a shorter video and we are trying to strategically place it.
Like,
No. That's fake deep.
uh-huh.
Real deep is I'm still holding on to that body.
Yeah.
I'm still holding on to that pain.
Right.
And next time I'm going to keep that part in and put it out there.
Yeah.
And just whatever it's supposed to do, it'll do. But by that level of authenticity and acceptance, the universe will say yes, and so it is, and bring you whatever's aligned with that. Right? Nature abhors a vacuum. So if we start letting go of the stories, of the ideologies and the attachments, and say, when we let that go, we make room for new. And then we say yes to the new. And then life unfolds beautifully from there. And it will give you tasks to do. It will bring the challenges. We don't have to force a challenge. Challenge is going to come either way. Now, you do need fortitude and resiliency. And I'm grateful for the years of things like bodybuilding style training, because it teaches you that. That's why I have love and appreciation for bodybuilders. You know, there's also a lot of pain under all that, in which I think a lot of bodybuilders would benefit from choosing to at least be willing to explore that next phase of, you know, how do you hold both? That's the question. That's the tug of war in me, is how do you hold both? How do you do the hard thing when you don't feel like it? You do the extra rep when you don't want to create that stimulus and that progressive overload to actually break the muscle down, to say, hey, now feed your body and build muscle. How do you do that? But be in a flow state.
Right. For real.
Well, you gotta embody all, what would they say? A whole person is a whole person. It's all aspects of your psyche. So problem is we deny aspects. You know, I'm really gonna throw some. I don't know if you ever had a guest do this, and I might get judgment.
Nope.
For this.
Here for it.
I've had fantasies based on I'm nervous now. I've had fantasies of more aggressive sexual conduct towards women that stimulate my sexual arousal because of some of the stuff I experienced early on.
Yeah.
And there's so much shame.
Yes.
I remember telling this to my wife. We were laying in bed, and she went to UW-Madison and graduated with psychology. She ended up being a life coach, but I couldn't get it out. There was that little boy in me who was so scared. And I'm like, and I was talking like this. We're laying in bed, and she's like, it's okay. She put her hand on me. She said, it's okay. I'm here. Take your time. And it took me, I don't even know, she might be able to remind me how long it took me. It felt like eternity to get it out. And I said it. You know what her response was? That's it. That's it.
You've been holding on to that for how long?
Right. And to this day, this is like the third public. I did it in nonviolent communication at a retreat in upstate New York. One other time, I can't remember. There's just the third time I've ever said this, where other people are going to witness me saying that I have this fantasy. To this day, that lives in me until I embrace that, because it can be discussed with my wife. It can be worked out. There can be, maybe, I don't know. But what I know is that by getting it out there, there's nothing between my wife and I. And now we can have a deep, intimate, authentic relationship that's rooted in honesty and true acceptance and love. And so back to what I was saying about the whole person, is that until we all accept all these different parts of ourselves, until we say yes. I'm not saying you got to do what I just did.
That's very hard for a lot of people to do, but
oh my goodness,
you're giving people permission. I can own that part of my story. I can remove the shame by speaking to it, because now I can understand where that comes from. It's not this awful, shameful thing. It was what I saw.
And the thing is that I used to go to the extent of like watching pornography.
Yeah.
That depicted that.
That's a real thing.
It's a real thing. In fact, it's more, it's out there more than people realize. How many people actually, well, look at our culture.
Right.
Women, I'm sorry that you have to experience that level of fear. But my commitment now is to be honest with that, and to say, I'm going to choose not to go to those websites, because I know that that's not a healthy strategy that's going to actually lead to anything good. which I don't. And I'm going to be the opposite of that to my wife and my daughter. And I'm going to continue to be in spaces like this to put it out there, to do the healing work so that it doesn't manifest as something that could harm another person.
Yeah.
Now, I told you I've done some stuff in New York City, and I've seen dungeons and underground stuff in New York City of some of the kinkiest things you could imagine. And it's not a judgment. I'm just saying I've been there, and there are some of the most elite people that you think would never have some of the craziest, kinkiest fetishes that I've seen with my own eyes in person.
Yeah.
And I was living in New York, so I've been around celebrities and other
We're
people.
seeing that in the news right now with stuff in the news.
And even like your pastors. And here's the thing is that's an unhealthy expression of what's alive in you. And
right. Yes.
My commitment is to honor it and to say, what is the healthy version of that? How would that express in a healthy way? Like you could be in a marriage or a partnership where people want to role play.
Yeah.
You know, there are ways, and I don't have all the answers, but there are ways, and I'm not doing that in my marriage, but there are ways that can be expressed. But what I know is that I'm committed to that authenticity and to that honoring that is in me, not a denial, and saying that lives in me. And I'm not ashamed of it because it was a learned thing.
Right. Yep.
This was happening when I was a little boy. I was being stimulated by this kind of stuff. I'm not wrong for it. And in my mind, anyone who looks, if you are watching this and you were like, oh my God, and go into a story about how I'm a bad person, that has nothing to do with me. In fact, I'm being about as empowered as a human being can possibly be. And that's everything about the mask and the armor that you've created, and to look within yourself. Because if you're being uncomfortable about something that I'm saying, it probably lives in you.
Boom, another mic drop.
And so there, I just put it out there. I had no idea it was going to bring that kind of stuff.
Because now whoever is watching, regardless of what your story is, maybe that's why I have these thoughts that I'll never share with anyone. You just gave someone permission to get curious about their story and where certain thoughts and feelings come from, regardless of what it is on that spectrum. Is it something like that or is it something different?
Yeah.
But just to be like, whoa, maybe I need to look into that, because if that's something that I'm shameful about and it's that thing that like I wouldn't tell a soul about that, there's some healing around that for you.
Perfect. Exactly. And that's the key is there's a time and a place. I had to do some work to get to a point where I'd be willing to do it. I don't even know how many viewers this will be. And for all I know, like Brene Brown, it could end up being hundreds of thousands, millions eventually. Who knows?
That's the plan. That's
the right. It could be this episode, right? Like, oh yeah, that guy that has these weird fetishes. Yeah.
This is the one that goes by.
All of a sudden I'm like that guy. I'm just, this is how my brain works, right? It's perfect. It wasn't meant to say what I thought I was going to say. I'm just committed to doing what we're doing right now because I know that my daughter is going to benefit from this because there's no mistakes, and she's not going to experience a father who suppresses it and then acts out on her. You know, she's going to have a tender, loving, compassionate father who is also very masculine and can be fierce and aggressive when necessary, but who chooses compassion over that as much as possible, and who does this kind of stuff so that he doesn't act out these fantasies in an unhealthy way. And that's hard to do. And that's my commitment. I'm doing a program through celebrations. I'm purposely putting certain things out there because I want people to know about them. Because I love these people. I love what they're about. I love everything about, like it's called the Prosperity Circle, and it's hosted by Pastor Yolanda Batts and Greg Stamper. Pastor Greg Stamper in Brooklyn, New York, and it's called the Prosperity Circle through Celebration Spiritual Center. It's www.celebrationsc.org. I love these people. I did a lot of my healing work in this community while living in Brooklyn for about 4 years, and I felt like I lived in a bubble. And they are a facilitator for New Thought consciousness. And if you're not familiar with New Thought, just type in New Thought. It's not a religion. It's not even a ideology. It's none of that. It's a consciousness. It's a way of being in life. Neville Goddard and there are other practitioners of New Thought, that Michael Bernard Beckwith, who is the founder of Agape Center in California, I believe it's California. Anyways, these people are being called to have a online experience called the prosperity circle. And I'm back in that consciousness now because I'm getting the support. I said yes. I had to go through some suffering again and make myself available. And this is aligned here and now. And I'm being reminded of these deeper truths of that I have to go in and get the stuff out of the way, be honest, get rid of the shame, the blame, the guilt inside so that I don't project it outside. I start to live in more of a flow state, release what is no longer meant in my life and say yes to make space, to say yes to that which is ready to enter my physical body and be expressed here. And so I'm right now reading a book. We're doing it all together called Open Yourself to Prosperity by Catherine Ponder. They're doing a whole sermon series on it on Sundays. And that's where I'm putting my energy now. And it allows me to show up like I am today. Yeah. Whereas 10 years plus ago, you'd be looking at the guy saying, yeah, big, nice shell.
Yeah.
But who the fuck are you, dude? And I'd be like, I don't know. Well, I have a better understanding now. Yeah. Better understanding. I'm still figuring it out. But what I do know is this. Perfect, whole, and complete. There is nothing I have to do, have, or be to change that inherent fact, and life will guide me along the way.
I love it. Well, that's what I wanted to end on, was that statement that you are perfect, whole, and complete. And for everyone's inner child to hear that as well.
Yeah. And you still are those we all are those inner children. So yeah, I'm not a trauma therapist, but what I do know is I'm grateful to be here.
I'm grateful you're here. And thank you for sharing everything that you did and giving people permission to look at their story through a different lens, a more compassionate lens, a more aware and awake lens, and just, I want to look into that. I want to meet myself with kindness and compassion, with whatever I've got going on. I want to get to know me. Like that's what this podcast is all about. And being open and vulnerable is what we do here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. On that note, I will wrap this up. And remember, I want to repeat it again. You're perfect, whole, and complete. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.